Oh, right then, Keith. Let's have a look here. Yes, brother. How are we? All good?
Greetings, everybody.
That's it, we can hear. Excellent. How are we? Okay?
Good. Yourself?
Yeah, man, we're feeling good, feeling chipper, as they say. Um,
Yeah.
Thank you for joining me. Thank you for giving your love and your time and your application, your wisdom and your knowledge to myself and to my Facebook friends and family, and I'm sure to yours as well. And together, I'm sure we can step forth and overcome any evilness. Thank you, brother.
Very much, and appreciate the invite. I always like my talks with you, brother. How's everybody else doing? I see we got Lisa Popsy Wiles. Greetings.
Because I don't have a computer, Keith, I've just got a little phone. I mean, I can only see from here on myself there on my, because you're on the bottom screen and I can't actually see any comments either. So if anybody is trying to comment, I've got the tiniest little margin, narrow margin there. I'll have to go through them afterwards. I don't want to look like I'm, ignoring you or ignoring them by speaking to one or the other. So that's my disclaimer on all of this. I'm not, I'm a techno.
I'll do the best I can for my end because I got a split screen too, but my screen has the chat bar over my video, so I can see both.
Okay, there you go then. Excellent. So we've had some good positive feedback, some good positive comments from our last short little chat together. So, if we can gain momentum with it and speak the gospel and give the word, which, as we know, is God's, it's the answer to all. So may we be blessed in what
Yes.
we do.
I was just talking today about the right to travel. We talk about this right to travel, and everybody wants to point out to, here in America, they want to point out to the Constitution or this or that. And I try to tell people that we have to look at, like I was talking to you earlier, everything is uniform. What is done is what ought be done. There is nothing new under the sun. So we can always find the answer and create our own remedy if we know where to look. Well, all these laws, codes, rules, and everything mirror the Bible. So if we can see the like wording in the Bible, I'll show you what I'm talking about in regards to the right to travel. They use the word ingress and egress, which means in to a place and out of a place. So let's look at your right to travel in the Bible. And the right to travel in the Bible is very clearly expressed. Psalms 121, verse 8. The Lord shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth and even forevermore. Isaiah 6,
Going out and
verse
thy coming
8.
in, and this time forth and even forevermore. That's right. And there it is written. That's it written there. That's to to back up any evidential fact or claim. There it is written therein.
Yep, and they have to show in their legislation what defeats this, because that's what their entire system is founded on the Bible. Everything they write, the Constitution, the Declaration, it must be done as what is done is what ought to be done.
And that is a maxim of equity, incidentally. And what I've brought here is swaps, restitution, and trusts. See that? Now, I'm going to read some parts of this to us this very day because it's regarding equity and suitability. And that's what we'll get into with that and how that then derives back to the equity in the streets as is derived from the Bible, which is the law. We have the acts,
Correct.
statutes, legislative rules of a private corporate entity, what we know as codes and, you know, things that pertain to a person. And then we have the law, which is for man, written in the Bible. Nothing to do with codified signals and statutory numbers and all these types of legislative ruling. That's only for those that work there. We don't work there.
Correct. The thing about travel, one of the most important things that I've learned in my 4 years is, like I just said here, all of our stuff comes from the Bible. And when we look at the etymology, all of their legal stuff, the Bible is based generally on Hebrew. All their statutes in the legislative system from that transliteration or mirroring is Latin root.
It comes Latin and French. That's what the jurisdiction is. That's what the jurisprudence derives from. The early French
Correct.
jurisconsults and their language, which we know today as being
Yep.
the bar.
And I think I discussed this briefly in our last video. Here in America, we have Louisiana that follows French law, while the rest of the United States follows what we call American jurisprudence, which is the
Common
Latin root
law.
and everything.
It's a common law jurisdiction.
Right, common law. And then Canada, again, is French law.
Mhm.
But again, no matter what we do, when we go back to the origins of the roots, again, it's all mirrored. So the common law is basically the same as the French law. It's just two different mirrors.
Mhm.
If you go to a circus and you go into the mirror house, you might have one mirror that makes your head look fat, your body look skinny, or your legs look fat. Another mirror might make your head look skinny, your body look fat, and your legs look skinny. This is the same thing with their mirrors in the laws. We have to get to the right image, which is the true image that doesn't have the thickness and thinness. It's one path.
Equal
Period. People ask me all the time, Keith, why do you follow such a hard path? It's the only path I see.
The righteous path isn't always the easiest path by any stretch. In fact, oftentimes the righteous path isn't the easy path. However, it's inherently within us to do so, and extremely rewarding when it's done. That's all as I can say, because I am evidence of that fact.
The convenience of being able to let somebody else take over your responsibilities allows the slumber on your rights.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I try to tell people, you don't have rights.
Mm-hmm.
Priority
is granted unto you.
Any enforcement. Yeah, prior and superior to any enforcement of any right you think you have, you must first take responsibility. That means you must be able to respond.
Mm-hmm.
Responsibility, ability to respond. If you don't know how to respond in their legal system, then obviously you don't have any rights, because you don't know your responsibility.
Mm-hmm. You don't know
and that's why the administrative process is so important.
Mm-hmm. Here we go.
You have to show it. Administrate yourself.
I would not. In fact, I'm trying to juggle and wiggle which one I want to read first. I'm just going to, if it's okay with you, brother. I mean, this will be a familiar passage for you, from Colossians chapter 4. I'm going to read 1 through 10, but then I'm going to bring it back to the right to travel and the equity and the suitability of it, and what we've just spoke about regarding the difference between the law and regulation, because there's a clear line between them, but we're bewildered by words to think that they're one and the same. So, masters, give unto your servants that which is just and equal, knowing that ye also have a master in heaven. See, that's very powerful on its own. There is no one between us and God. They may proclaim to have this powerful position over us, but Am I still there?
Yeah, you're there now. You broke up on that last part there.
Okay. It's knowing thy master. I've actually spoke to a man in person within 6 inches of each other, and he was quite a representative for the Vatican. And I've met him here in England, and I asked him that very question: whom is your master? Whom are we under here? And he was a Catholic man. And at the end of the day, we have the same creator. We are here with the same purpose. We have an honor and a duty and an obligation to one another to bring equity to the streets. And when that says there, masters, give unto your servants that which is just and equal, which is equity, knowing that ye also have a master in heaven. So we are all as
Correct.
one. We are equal. Don't let anybody tell you that they are above you. That's the first common mistake here with the cognitive dissonance, thinking that you are below anybody else because they've got a posh suit on or a tie, or they've got a capacity or a name badge, manager. That's not true.
Correct.
Continue in
that
prayer.
goes right.
Sorry.
That goes right in parallel with know thyself. If you don't know that you're a master to servants and who those servants are, separate from other people that act as masters or behave as masters, and who the true master is, then you don't know thyself and you can't operate squat.
Exactly.
Very important to know thyself in both positions as servant and master.
Know thyself, just, right, proper. Just is justification. Right is righteousness. Without them pair, you're not proper. If it's improper, you are unconscionable. So any one of those three lacking, you must work on it. Continue in prayer, and watch in the same with thanksgiving. Withal praying also for us, that God would open unto us a door of utterance, to speak the mystery of Christ, for which I am also in bonds, that I may make it manifest as I ought to speak. Walk in wisdom towards them that are without, redeeming not the time. Let your speech be always with grace, seasoned with salt, that ye may know how ye ought to answer every man. All my state shall Titius declare unto you, who is a beloved brother, and a faithful minister and fellow servant in the Lord, whom I have sent unto you for the same purpose, that he might know your estate and comfort your hearts. What a word in the Bible, he may know your estate. So the Sestu Cavey Act of 1666, it bonds us to the bank, creating a trust law situation whereby we have a family estate, which has been through language subjugated and subrogated away from us. They are impersonating the beneficiary position, and it says so here. Once we come back to knowing thyself, knowing the language, we can take that what is rightfully ours back. With oneness, a faithful and beloved brother, who is one of you, they shall make known unto you all things which are done here. Make known to you all things which are done here, because it's exactly as you said earlier. There's nothing new under the sun. You and I aren't bringing anything new here. This has been done for hundreds of thousands of years by hundreds of men coming to the realization of the Christ-like consciousness. It's just that we have a digital platform now where we can give our expression of utterance of truth on a larger scale without interruption. We are traveling this very day, point A to B, without interference, because we have that duty and obligation to do so. And this is where we need to be doing in life, whether you're actually physically traveling on the King's Highway or you're doing it through the cyberspace, you know. Do it conscionably. Know who you are while you're doing it.
Exactly, and it's stated in there, seasoned without time. When we think about seasoned without time, I urge people to think about the principalities there, because that's what you're supposed to base things on, that are seasoned without time, is the principle.
That's what law derives from, the principality of life. That's what it all is from, you know.
That one of a oneness. When they say oneness, it's you are one of one whole. meaning that you partake as a single element of everything else, which also has their single element. That's the equality. It doesn't matter if it's a single man versus a single tree. The equality of life is there. The tree has a breath of life, or breath of carbon monoxide, you might call it, in a sense of tree, as man has a breath of life. Every creature is one single element of the whole. So even when it comes to the servant and master, we're not necessarily just servant to each other. That's our public servitude. Our natural servitude goes to Mother Earth, wherein it's all the other life forms. When we talk about public servitude, we're talking specifically about man to man.
Absolutely. So I'm going to read. That's tied it in.
Those are the differences.
That is tied it in
Those
just
are the
beautifully. It's almost like you know what I'm about to read next, and it's from this book, and it's page 200, incidentally, and it's titled Equity and Suitability. There is a problem in isolating the line between law and regulation in the context of financial transactions. Within the financial community itself, the personnel who deal with the legal issues and those who deal with the regulatory issues tend to be different. There is usually a distinction between legal documentation and compliance departments as a result. The concept of suitability is called from notions of regulation and, more specifically, whether or not the mixture of clients and products is a suitable one. It is submitted that the approach of equity to financial market contracts should import some notions of suitability to the extent that they chime in with the understood equitable principles. You see, that's what we're speaking here. For example, the benefits of enforcing standard market contracts to reduce the level of systematic risk is considered below as fitting in with the understood doctrine of common intention constructive trusts from the area of traditional family trusts of homes. As observed earlier from the speech of Lord Brown Wilkinson in Target Holdings, there is a need for a parallel understanding of equity in the context of commercial situations, which is different from principles of equity and trusts as are traditionally understood.
Traditionally understood, which means common law trust, the pure trust in Genesis 1:25 through Genesis 2:25.
The doctrine of propriety estoppel offers a substantive claim, which some commentators have considered to be closer to the remedial model constructive trust used in North American jurisdictions than the English institutional constructive trust. It is useful, therefore, to consider the similarities and differences between the two doctrines to understand better the model of common intention constructive trust, which the suitability approach would apply to commercial and financial market transactions.
Correct. And remember, people, commercial and financial transactions are always future.
That's why.
They are never the now time.
And that is why all of the acts and the statutes and the government legislative rules and codes always start with the word a person shall not. So for one, a person, if you're a person, then it pertains to you, but I'm not a person at that time. A person shall not. The word shall is forward tensed. It's not in the now. So they can only ever project to the future, and that's a part of their common law assumption and presumption. So once you remove that word shall and bring it back to the now, which is the only time that a court can adjudicate, it nails it there and then. Because if you have done a wrong according to their rule, then you can put your hands up, say, forgive me, I'm sorry, I shall go and put that right. I shall go and get a license. I shall get insurance. Whatever the case may be, if there's a civil conflict. The word shall is huge.
Right. Same with the conditional. I shall get the driver's license as required upon the condition that the state can prove that I am performing commerce
That's
at
right.
any time.
Mm-hmm.
How can you prove that I'm performing commerce if I'm the record keeper?
Mm-hmm. And what's to say what
Don't know what to tell you.
exactly? And then what's to say what you, if you are in commerce? What are you charging? Are you levying? Are you bartering? Are you charging in chicken? Are you charging in coffee beans? What? How are you charging? You know
Right, what species?
what?
We were on a 12-hour Zoom yesterday on the land patents, and I'm telling you what, it was rigorous, but it was great, and that was one of the points. What species?
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned that word species in regards to their financial system in these commercial courts and stuff, and they just go haywire because they know you know what's up when
They
you
know.
say that one
What's the species?
species.
Because I am not alienated from my rights. And when you get the word,
Exactly.
you know, I shall not be alienated.
Yeah. And let's see, we got a couple comments here I want to respond to. John Cherry, yes, even people that wear baseball caps, we are equal. When it comes to the other scriptures and their use of the scripture in their legal systems, say Hinduism and their legal system,
Mhm.
whatever. I went through foster homes when I was a kid, and so I was subjected to many different styles of the common religion here in America: Protestant, Methodist, Baptist, all different kinds. And they all had the same basic principles, which was like the golden rule that we know is do unto others as you would have them do unto you. This is to love thy neighbor as thyself. They all speak about honoring thy father and honoring thy mother, recognizing the maternity and paternity, the ego of the separatism within ourselves that creates the separate systems, as well as honor the oneness. Whether they call it a God, whether they call it Ruach Hakodesh, whether they call it, whatever. It's the oneness that they speak of whenever we speak of these gods or God. It's the unity of people having something in common that they have um, a foundation in, a basis of proof. And that in and of itself is light. Even rocks, what we think of as solids, move. Even that has a freedom of movement, but it's not a matter of time. It's a matter of principle.
Mhm.
And like we were talking about yesterday in the land patent thing, the military came into America, and like most other countries, every country follows the Lieber Code as the basis of peace,
Yes.
which is
They
the
they
code of
come with
war.
militant arms to enforce peace. Yes.
Right. And it seems contradictory, but it's actually logical, because if you think about it, people, can anybody perform commercially in times of war? Can you go out on the corner and sell your wares when the corner is being bombarded? No, it's an impossibility. It's a matter of survival then, not a matter of commerce for profit.
Mhm.
So in a sense, despite the fact that it's the Lieber Code and code of war, it is the code of peace commercially. So we have to recognize that. And in these land patents, when they come on the land in a military style to enforce commerce, they hold all property in what's known as abeyance. And that only means that all you have to do is step up as the rightful owner and make the valid claim.
Mhm.
And it requires no title, because the land patent itself, your claim to land, just that itself, supersedes any title. And no court on earth has ever overturned that. No court has ever overturned a land patent for a title. It can't be done. And this is spoken of in Leviticus. Can't remember the exact chapter or verse. I think it's 25, verse 15. The land shall not be sold, for it is not yours. It is mine.
We are the land.
And that right there tells you that no title is valid if you know how to enforce it.
Because a legal title is complete separate jurisdiction to equitable interest. And we are inherently born with equitable interest. We are born unto the land for remedy and the benefit of our person.
In their commercial system, they even tell you, in order to perfect the title, you must have and hold. Gee, isn't that an equitable term? You must have and hold both legal and equitable title. Now, how can you hold equitable title? You can't. But you have it already. It's inherent. So their own admission to having and to holding. Holding means possessing the legal title only. Having relates to
inherent.
It's having it inherently. And that's why I say it's behave and not behave. When you see that term that says B-E-H-A-V-E, it's a morpheme of the grapheme of the phoneme. It's behave or behave. You have it already. It's been freely given. Your only duty now is to give it freely.
Do your alms charitably.
Yep.
In private, in secret. But here we are, being charitable with our alms on a public platform, but hopefully it will come to fruition for those that are watching and listening, because it's straight off the hip, straight from the cup, straight off from our hearts, from years and hours and months and days of learned reading.
And that's an important point there too, Andy. You know, I hope people do comprehend it, and that's why you and I connect so well, because we both know earnestly here and here that this is where it starts. It doesn't start here, guys. If you try to start thinking about this legal system here without using this first, then you're acting just like these peaceful protesters going out there to peacefully protest, but not knowing how to enforce it. If you don't know how to enforce it in your heart, you'll never be able to figure out how to. Period. The words that come from here have to first come from the force of your heart. If it doesn't come from the force of your heart, it has no force.
It's of the spirit.
It's already dead.
That's why we are spirit-led. Yep. You know, I'm going to read this here. It says here quite clearly, chapter 4, verse 11, Colossians. And Jesus, which is called Justus, who are of the circumcision. So he's called just us. He is just us. We are circumcised of the flesh. We are walking the spiritual path of Christ consciousness in a godly, righteous, upright manner, without vanity, without pride. We are doing it for the love of the brethren, for the love of ourselves, the reward we get inherently within from giving that which we have found, the word of God and the truth therein. He's us, just us. It's what you said earlier, calling what thou wilt. But if you have that heart and a mind to step on that path which is already pre-laid for us centuries ago, our life is already planned. It's already destined for an end place. We just have to trust the plan, go with the spiritual flow, ebb and flow with it, be spat at in the streets, be blasphemed against, be called a liar, all of these things. But we know in our heart the truth. It's written therein. We've taken the time, the due diligence, the care and application to cross-reference all of this stuff All the languages, the legalese, Chinese, Japanese, with the English, the etymological roots of the Spanish, the French, the Greek, the Latin, all of the right to where they start. And that's why now we can do and say what we do and say with all faith and confidence. Because I don't know about you, but I've tried this with authoritarians and I've knocked them flat on their back. I don't even have to produce paperwork. I've got paperwork with me in a folder. I never bring it out because I've just given them first-hand knowledge. Orally, I've reverberated the word, which was in the beginning was God's. They can't rebuke that. They can't, there's no coming for me. Rebuke the book, rebuke the word. It was here before me. I'm just implementing it. That's all.
Correct. And and when you implement it correctly, like I said, their system mirrors it. So implementing correctly means you have to show where they're mirroring it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I said, if you're fighting these travel cases, bring up that Psalms verse I just pulled up. He's the one that gives me the right to go from place to place, not you. And just because somebody else invented a car doesn't mean you have jurisdiction over the car that I bought from a manufacturer.
Mm-hmm.
You can't say, well, I have a right to restrict your travel because there's a requirement to have a license. Well, you'll have to show that I'm party to that legislation that mirrors the Bible that says I don't have a requirement for a license.
Well,
because my only requirement is to follow his word, and he says I can go here.
The last time I
he says I can go there.
Yeah, I didn't have an invitation to your party, so I'm not a party to your party. And if you think that I am, please prove the case. He who makes claim has the burden of proof and must provide the remedy. Go ye ahead.
Yeah. and it's and when we think about trying to express ourselves, and I'm going to use our latest realm here with the death up in Minneapolis and people going up in arms and people all of a sudden coming out with Black Lives Matter. Again, several times we've had it in American history, the death of a black man, and all of a sudden you see all kinds of propaganda from Black Lives Matter. Back to John's question about the scriptures and being from different religions and stuff, same concept. If you're going out there and raising up arms in Black Lives Matter because it says so in your heart without thinking about it properly and pointing the finger at other men, if you're relating to a time thing that says seasoned without time, it's the same thing. It's not it's seasoned without men. Because again, it's not the men, it's the principalities that certain people are following. Mm-hmm. And that's what we need to attack. We don't need to be attacking the men, the women that are standing in these uniforms trying to protect their buildings. We need to attack the paperwork they're sending us. This is the principle that they're trying to push on us. This is how we need to attack, and we need to do so peacefully. If we do it in a belligerent manner, then we're acting just like them, and we're not rising above to the jurisdiction that we actually belong in, which is justice and righteousness. That's what we seek. That's how we have to act.
I'm just going to get you a scroll of mine, which I have had scribed, and I shall read some of the verbatim from it, which is for the public record. It's already out there, so I'll show it you now, Keith. I'm not sure if you've seen it, but it's a beautiful thing. It was created by my wife-to-be. She's a very clever individual. It's a beautiful thing. I'll go and grab it now and show you.
Awesome. Awesome. In the meantime, guys, this scroll that he's talking about, remember, back in the day, before there was a postal service or anything, they had a post in the center of the town square, and people would deliver things. And they would generally be posts like this, where they would just tag them to the post. What he's talking about there is a scroll, which is generally delivered from king to king, and not from peasant to peasant.
I always act in personam. I always carry these with me, like a town crier. Oh yay, oh yay, oh yay, hear me now.
Right, and like his is constructed in a scroll. Mine is the old trifold. Notice, that's a homemade stamp, guys.
So it's been franked.
Notice
It's
that,
what we call franking.
right? It's a seal. It's the seal of my document. And notice it doesn't have a dollar amount. It just has one whole. The oneness. I am whole.
It's a figure of speech.
This on the back side was used as a seal. Okay? Now, the construction, this is the outside. This is the public side. This is everything the public gets to see. This is the inside. This is the private side.
Private side, yeah.
Notice the third one. It's got a signature and a date. It's been canceled. It's a private frank, canceled by the man who created the frank, with a private letter of credit. And as soon as I cancel it myself, it becomes a valid contract.
2 wet ink signatures always denotes a contract. You can't have a contract without that, otherwise it's only an agreement.
Correct.
And as we spoke last time, a contract is just an agreement with an added legal obligation.
Exactly.
So,
all right.
This document, you can see for the intrinsic value, there's a Queen stamp on there. I've crossed it with my thumb, that is my red thumbprint there. My private franking, should we say that? Yes. Now then, I'm going to have this signed across with my witnesses. I should be putting my calling across there, my given Christian calling. Andrew. I've got other documents in there which are already done. I could bring them through and show you. But amongst other things, it says this. I, man, Andrew, divine source of Christ consciousness, hold the belief and spiritual conviction that slavery servitude is an unconscionable violation of commercial law, that fraud, misrepresentation, non-disclosure, intimidation, deceit, concealment of material facts, and treachery are morally wrong. I'm an Andrew of the House Smith, interested third party and authorised agent for the all caps name. Hereby attest I am sole and absolute owner of myself, my body, my estate, and possess unconditional allodial title thereto, and that I abjure, renounce, forsake, and disavow utterly and absolutely, now and forever, all presumptions of power, authority, or right by any government agency, its principalities over the rights of life, liberty, or freedom, or property of I, man Andrew, from whatever source presumed or derived.
Nice.
And this is it's an affidavit and notice in declaration of allodial title of property. And now we were speaking earlier about.
I would change that one word property.
Yeah.
Maybe just drop it completely, because it's just allodial rights technically.
Which,
allodial right is your patent.
But which is property? My inalienable wisdom and knowledge and rights are my intellectual property. He who doesn't know his rights or doesn't assert his rights has no rights. So, along with those rights and the word of God, my gospel, my property, I own them all. It's just a word of theirs. The property allodial is a legalese word. Property is, but allod, A-L-L-O-D, that's the early Roman jurisprudence word, allod, and it become to allodial, all owed, I all owed, I all, because they've stolen it from us. So you can have a legal title or you can have a allodial title. Now, when if I bought a car from you this day, Keith, and we swapped the registration document, that gives me legal title. But when you handwrite me a receipt to say that I bought it from you for £4 of potatoes and 1 chicken and £4 of carrots, that then gives me a allodial title.
Perfect example. I know of a case here in America where the guy went in to register his truck and they asked for the value. And the guy actually paid for it with a bunch of wrenches.
Mm-hmm.
So when they asked for the value, he put down a list of the wrenches that he traded. They said, well, we can't do this. Well, he says, well, I don't know what else to tell you, because that's the value.
Mm-hmm.
So the gal called up the state attorney general, and the state attorney general told her, give him the plates and registration.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter the value. The exchange was made,
Exactly.
considered, and equal according to the parties that made the exchange. That's all that's necessary. That is a allodial title. But in effect, they still transferred and acquisitioned it through the unlawful conveyance of the list of wrenches to a monetary value in order to get him a registration and a plate.
Mm-hmm. And it always comes
They
back
had to
the
put a
same.
value to it to be able to provide tax to say that he has to register it again next year.
Mm-hmm. Commercial. It's just all commercial. Everything's for the commerce, isn't it? You know.
Yep.
I actually know of somebody that have had court bailiffs sent to their property, and the bailiffs had wheel clamps on their car, and they've actually taken the allodial title to the bailiff, and it clearly stated on there that this car has been sold for £4 of carrots and a turnip. She has still got that allodial title, and when she produced that title to the man outdoors, the clamp was taken off. He read it to his gaffer on the phone. It was taken off because it stands in a court of law. It has intrinsic value.
If you guys watch the movie Lilo and Stitch, it's an animated kids movie.
I've heard of
Watch
it. Yeah.
that movie. Lilo is or Stitch is this little stuffed animal creature, this alien that this little girl buys at a like a secondhand store or something, right? Or a garage sale or something. And like I said, he's an alien. And the people from the other world, the outer world, came to get him, and they had a warrant to take possession. But Lilo had a receipt. And so what they did was they passed judgment immediately, said you are exiled to Earth to
Mm-hmm.
remain forever the rest of your life in the possession of Lilo.
Mm-hmm.
That's how powerful it is. They will recognize it, and
Exactly.
they
Well,
even tell you so. Kids commercial
I
or
can
kids animated movie.
absolutely, I can attest and affirm all of that to be fact and true. You know, I created that allodial title, and that was the verbatim that was on there, and that's what we done the exchange with. It was just unfair to us. They needed those potatoes and carrots and turnip or whatever you, and I needed a car, and so it worked both ways. And then when you produce that allodial title or receipt, that's the most powerful thing we can have for that possessory right, because that's all we have.
Yeah.
We don't own anything.
And see, that's why our courts here, our transportation department here won't accept those, because they can't.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a title.
Mm-hmm.
It rebuts their system.
Mm-hmm.
That's why that guy went in there and said he paid for his truck with wrenches. He should have never gotten a registration. He should have said, "Oh, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
That's proof that this supersedes your
Mm-hmm.
authority." He didn't recognize that though.
Because when we look at the etymology of registration, come on, Mo, my dog's barking. Get in. When we look at the etymology of registration, anything regi is to give. So we are granting title and allodial title and getting back legal acquisitions, like when we register our house, a deed and title goes to the land registry. When we register our children, right, it goes to the first copy to wherever it goes at Rome. You know, when we register anything, the car, anything property, it's to give. And that's what we are doing inherently, giving it all away, as well as our own sweat equity through the life of servitude, to have to pay for all of this stuff that we have signed away to a corporation, unbeknownst and beguiled through the language.
Yeah. Well, and see, when it comes to that, instead of using property, then maybe use
Yeah.
Instead of using property, maybe use wording that I found is quite often used in a lot of documents: all real and personal effects,
Yes,
and that's
real.
it.
Because it says actually in there is because real property and real property, one is bricks and mortar, and one's intangible. You know, like an idea
Right.
in your mind.
Real, right. Real is the tangible, and personal is the intangible, and the effects is everything that's affected by either one of them.
Mm-hmm.
So all real property that is affected by me or has my effects
Mm-hmm.
um,
Whether it be
is mine.
defected or affected, it's mine.
Correct. Correct. And that's why I say, if that guy would have recognized that, you know, um, instead of putting down a list of wrenches, he could have just put down all real and personal effects. And when they asked for the value, well, that's private. That was between me and him.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a private deal. Well, they're trying to, through the registration, bring it into public. Can't
Mm-hmm.
mix water and oil. Sorry, ma'am. That's a
Mm-hmm.
problem in law.
Mm-hmm.
You'll have to take me to court over that.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So,
That's what it's all about here, and that comes back to again, know thyself. But it's no small undertaking. This is quite a big dark blanket that's been thrown over us since we was birthed, thinking that that was our date of bornness. And it starts right from there, from the birth certificate, and all roads lead to Rome. And the languages and the acts and the statutes and the bard ruling, well, we're here to raise the bar. We're here to speak the truth and the gospel therein, which raises the bar. That's what we're here for.
yeah, definitely. Gotta raise the spirit, and that's the only way to raise that bar.
Exactly.
That's it's one of the things I'm so appreciative of myself in sticking with the doing this 20. Honest guys, I do this 24/7. My companion gets tired and gets upset, and I try to reaffirm with her, it'll get better, and she has faith in that. And back when we first got together, she was kind of along the lines of a lot of people, that she thought I might be a little bit on the offside. But now that we've been together a number of years, she's realizing, how much I really do know, and how much really is wrong with the system, and how much they are taking advantage of her. And she's now getting on into stages of dementia. So I've got to be really
Hmm.
careful with discussing things with her. But I try to keep her involved as much as possible. But at the same time, like I said, I do this 24/7, and it upsets her. But I've got to do what I got to do.
And that's
You
me
know,
too.
it's not like
We
we've got a shitload of money and we can actually go spend it on vacation or something.
we
So,
we live and breathe this stuff. And it's a part of life. You either live the righteous life, or you stray from it. You get distracted. You go on another track, another tangent, and another direction. When life's path
yep.
is already pre-laid for us, but we have to have the heart to walk the path, because it's very easy to be distracted, misled, and all these things.
And that's how important the principality of all this is to me, because like I said, 4 years ago I was belligerent. I was in the wrong end of things. I knew something in my heart was telling me it was right, and I had to find out, but at that time I wasn't prepared, and so I ended up with a little bit of detriment. I did come out of it pretty well unscathed. In the meantime, I've done a lot of growing, and it's that strict adherence to the principality that causes, some degrees of well, I'll even call it disassociation, social distancing between myself and my companion. But at the same time, um, I can only have my greatest faith in him that this will work, and I'm not, in fact, being detrimental to her, which I honestly don't believe I am. I may not spend as much time with her as she wants me to, doing just mundane things, even just playing cards or something. But to me, again, it's the principality of this is so much more important than just playing cards. But at the same time, I've got to be able to break down and see that
Yeah, you got to give
getting
yourself.
me away from this might be important to her too.
Mm-hmm.
So there are times I've got to stop and say, okay, I've got to spend time with her, but it never lasts near as long as this does.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
That's the principality of it.
it's valuable consideration. We have to use our discernment when it comes to our valuable consideration and how much we have to give. And maybe, I
And believe you
certainly
me,
am a
guys,
victim of losing myself in this stuff because it's all consuming, and I have left others behind.
yeah.
But it just
Because believe me, guys, she gets jealous of you.
Every hair is numbered. Oh no. So, yes.
Sometimes I feel like hitting the messenger button and call her, just because I'm here and she's there, just to give her a little. Hey, I'm still thinking about you.
Yeah, but we're taking down this spiritual road, this path, this life of truth and enlightenment and spirituality, and it's training ourselves not only to remember it all in there, but to reverberate it in a layman's way, because it's no good trying to speak as the Bible does, because not everyone gets the parables. So we have to in turn make our
Right.
own parables from the etymological root, and so we can speak it in the way that we only know how, because we're not God. We're just doing our best here. But God loves a trier, never
Yep.
a chancer.
Yeah, and that's one of the neat things when it's just like practice riding a bike. The more you practice, the better you get at it. And some people actually really like riding that bike, so they like it even more, and so they do it even more, so they get even better. That's the thing with my etymology. I like it so well because I know that when I pound it into me, if they ever take me into their court, one of the first things I'm going to mention is I've already noticed that you use this term defended. Are you saying that I've already been, my ability to fend for myself has already been taken away?
Taken away,
Are
that's
you
right.
saying that I'm already incompetent, or is that somebody else?
Hmm. You have already arrested my development.
Exactly. You know, and when we see this stuff, when we learn to see with the eyes of equity, we see the things that aren't equal.
Hmm. And it's a lot of,
Wait a minute,
yeah.
that ain't me.
Hmm. And as you've just shown there, that the correspondence or the letters that they drop into our office each time, it's all in capital letters. It's all in the Chicago.
Yep.
It's sign language. It's uppercase dogma Latin. So instantly, when you're answering to these things, we are traversing their border of the Canaan into their iniquities, speaking their language. But they don't want you to know that part of it all. They just want you to carry on so they can trip you over and you land face down in the water and they've got their bloody foot on the back of your head, and you're going to
Yep.
surrender right there and you're going to set up some payment plan so they'll let you up and breathe, and that's where it all starts there. So look at the letters, look at what they're trying to call you. Did your mother call you what's on that piece of paper? If it doesn't give you a correct calling, never mind variants of, or what they call them.
Yep.
Pardon?
And realize too, people.
Derivatives.
Andy and I are talking about the legalese and their symbolism here, and the words that they use. Also realize anytime somebody calls out teeth, it's a symbolism.
Mm-hmm.
It's symbolic.
It's a sine wave.
Symbolic of what? Symbolic of what, though? For me, like I've said, that funny looking guy in that black gown, when he first calls out teeth, before he utters another syllable, another sound, he is already instantaneously, because he is ever present in all places at all times, already called upon the Almighty Spirit of God. Yep, I'm here. I'm the trustee as his ward. Who's the beneficiary?
Mm-hmm.
My person.
Mm-hmm. You betcha.
Then how come he's been defended? Who's defending my person without my permission?
Who's subrogating here? Who is impersonating whom? Who do you think you are?
Yep.
I know who I am. Can you tell me who you are? What's your title? What's your given capacity? And give me your indemnification number while you're there.
Yep. See, people get confused about stepping up into that trustee capacity. We got to remember there's co-trustees.
Mm-hmm.
Co-trustees in the Setteke Trust. Well, who are the co-trustees? Well, if I'm the live trustee of the pure trust, then the only co-trustee of any other trust could only be a person.
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise it would be a war between two living trustees, two people claiming the same position at the same time. Can't be done.
That's right. It even speaks about that in this book of swaps, restitution, and trusts. So it covers that very thing. It's by Alistair Hudson.
And if I'm the trustee in body, then my person must be the beneficiary.
That's why.
Unless, as trustee, I assign somebody else as trustee.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to assign the state as trustee.
Mm-hmm. That's why man is born onto the land for remedy, which is the law, the land, the air, the water. He who holds the law is the law. So you are born onto the land for remedy and the benefit of your person. That doesn't make you the beneficiary. You are just
right
there to have the
See,
benefit.
and a lot of people have to realize, again, their commercial system mirrors the Bible. The birth certificate is the person. That is the person that you yourself are expected to resurrect,
raise from
and
the
give
dead.
him a new name. Raise him from the dead. Bring him off of that paper and show them that he lives. And you give him a new name.
That's why you're seeing.
And that is called salvation. And this is under their salvage laws.
Look, it's embossed like a thumbprint. It's raised from the dead.
Yep.
It isn't laying down. It isn't that way. It's raised it from that position.
That's why that seal is so important. That's the raising. When we talk about latent and patent, we were talking about land patents. It's actually pronounced patent, just like latent. Latent is underlying. Patent is overlying. Every one of their statutes is underlying and latent. In other words, it can be covered up. It means it does have something that supersedes it. And that is your patent right. That's your franking privilege to put on top of your document that you created your seal first, not somebody else. So when we use these envelopes, it's their envelope. You have to use a stamp. When we use our materials, we put our frank on it.
It's our valuable consideration. The sign of nature or the signature is valuable consideration. That's why you won't get nothing in the commercial world without it. You sign for your house, you sign for your car, you sign for your start of work. All these things, the applications always have to have that sign of nature, and that is giving it your valuable, equitable consideration right there. It's invaluable. That's why the bankers love it so much and sell it to each other for profit and gain. That's why we are all collateralized to the bank through that person, and they grasp your signature every time because of the value of it. We are not taught that.
Signal, as in signature, sign of nature, visible indication. Indication. Di meaning dual, in meaning with dualcation. Rules. With dual rules. I'm not going to split my rules with him, with you. You either adhere to the whole rule or admit that you're only applying some of the rules.
For if you commit one sin, you commit them all.
Yep. Ab initio.
Beautiful. You're saying it's just having that inner learned understanding of the language, which will then give you the confidence and the armor, the Godhead, the breastplate, the sword, the pen, to do that damage which is required to put a spike through their spokes to stop the wheels turning, and then they'll stop taking money from you and earning money from you. And then the GDP of the country doesn't keep rising year after year, and we won't owe a fictitious entity some 77 trillion zillion dollars, will we, forever?
Yep. And I'll hopefully you guys will catch this. The fiction between the reality and the words. Signal. Signal is described as a visual indication as opposed to an actual sign. An actual sign is something you have to observe. So where is the duality? Is it outside or inside?
It's always inside.
Whose vision is what?
It's always inside. Like, you know, right now you can hear me and you can see me inside of you. I'm not out of anywhere else. You can't see me out there. You can only see me within you. Like I can only see you and inherently within me. If we make a phone call later on,
between us,
we don't need a video.
All the people in between us don't know a thing about what's going on right now because they can't see you and they can't hear you between me and you. Mm-hmm. They can only do so if they're right here with us.
We are signaling beautifully. So I'm just going to check. Oh, I've got 30 seconds.
Yeah. Russell says, Your Honor, will be administrating today. Sorry, Russell. I'm never going to start out with Your Honor. I'm going to start out with
My honor.
My honor.
Me Lord. Not you, Lord. Me Lord. That's what they say. Me Lord. Yes, me Lord. Yep.
My honor. Can we establish the true, pure trust being administrated today? He's not going to want to answer that. He's that legal trust. Sorry, that's not the trust I'm talking about. When you called Keith, you called upon the pure trust. That's secondary. You already called the pure trust first, baby. I'm his trustee. Ask him. Ask him.
I'm the execution. I'm the executor of everything, the executioner, the grantor. We can be all of these within a trust. We have to know who we are at any given time because they will assume their position over you else.
Correct. Cast. He uses the word cast. Cast your net to the right. Fishers of men. And remember, people, we as men are cast of the earth. We were molded, casted of the earth. And then born of the waters of Mother Earth and given the breath of life.
And then we was put
through the furnace of fire. It cannot be taken away by anybody other than him.
Yes, and then we was fired. That's what they say, glazed, enameled, hardened, because when we are formed, we are baby squidgy-like and without holding, without steadfastness. So once you've been through that kiln of flames that was the resurrection of God, we come out hardened, enameled, holding the liquid, holding the remedy, holding the language. That's what this is all about. It's all it's the way that it's written in the book isn't easy to catch, but that's what we're doing here, raising that consciousness. Christos oil, the 33 ladders of Jacob between the temple. This is my church, this is my house, residing many mansions within. And it's these capacities and mansions that we open up within these different languages, with like the trustee, like a beneficiary, like all these capacities, when we use the different verbiage. And once we've done it on in its wholeness, we can just shoot it off the hip. And that's when they know that you know who you are. When you ask those spicy questions, which trust are we administering today? My Lord, me Lord. You know, they know.
Yeah.
And the game's up, because we're just indoctrinated and schooled to play a game without disclosure of the rules. And I think that's very unfair. But now that we've taken the time, the care, the love, the diligence to find out what the ruling is, all as we can do is implement their rules better than they do. And that's all we've come to do here. That's all we've come to do.
Exactly.
And it is not the be
That
all and end all of life. Don't take the public life privately home with you and dwell upon that. Don't take it personally, they say. Let business be business, you know. So once we know how to effect and how to implement and instrument correctly, you can do so within business office hours, charge accordingly, and then carry on with your private earnest life, sojourning and traversing in honor and righteousness. You know, this is what we need to bring forth, just how to enact the seas of commerce, how to stay afloat while trying to row your boat down them between the banks. And if we can do that, our work is done.
I try to impress upon people here in America. When I was a kid growing up and I got adopted, I was subjected to the public school system. But at the same time, the people that adopted me did a great, extensive job at homeschooling me as well. They helped educate me on how to do research, whereas that's something that the teachers at school aren't going to show you.
Mm-hmm.
They're just going to tell you, well, you got to go to the library and look it up.
And then they've only got certain
My mom and dad
with a
showed
certain
me how
narrative.
to look things up.
Yeah.
And in so doing, they also provided me with other material that wasn't provided by the school. So they added curriculum, other sources. And this is where I get my my research today in regards to aspects. I don't just study this.
Mm-hmm.
I study all sources as much as possible. That way I have a better way of discerning for myself.
Absolutely.
What is true and what is not. And so I try to instill people today, you don't have to give up on the public education system. You have to make it better. How do you make it better? By proving you can do a better job. Well, how do you do that, Keith? Well, you homeschool your kids through private education. People that have the knowledge that can stick to the supposed state curriculum, but supersede it. So that anytime anybody wants to question you and your children about the education that they're getting, you can feel free to step up and show them your superiority. Excuse me? My kid's 14 years old and he's already doing trigonometry. You want to test him on geometry? Feel free. He's already surpassed that. And that's the importance of knowing how to raise, how the village is supposed to raise the children. See, we're not supposed to have these educators raising our children out of our home. We're supposed to be, as villages, raising our children. And we spoke about this when people get a certain age and they start becoming disabled from doing certain things.
Less able.
Now we have a middle generation that's supposed to start looking after them and help take care of them while they're still looking after their own children. Well, how do we balance that? Well, we keep them in the same place. We keep our children with our elders. Our elders are now teaching our children while our middle generation is now physically helping the disabled older generations in things they can't do while they're educating our youngers. That takes our place of educating our youngers. Now we have the time to take care of our elders as they're taking. It's a vicious circle, people. It's
Mm-hmm.
called love.
It's called love and life, togetherness. We don't have anything else.
And none of it takes commerce.
Mm-hmm.
None of it.
We have love and togetherness. All the rest is just bullshit. I call it gravy. All the rest is gravy. If we haven't got each other or we haven't got love, you ain't got nothing. That's as simple as that of this existence, I'm afraid. So get used to that. It's repenting.
Yeah, the gravy ain't no good unless you got something to put it on, huh?
You know? You don't buy yourself a video if you haven't got a TV.
Exactly. So yeah, and that's a good way to put it, because you don't want to go into these courts not knowing what you're doing.
No.
So start educating yourself now and realize it's all a word game, and you shouldn't be going into the courts. You should be responding through the mail.
Paperwork
Put them to the
precedes
task.
man. Paperwork always precedes man. You know, they have no obligation. They have no obligation to hear or see a dead entity, because that's what our legal fiction birth certificate is. That's what they're dealing with in these commercial courts. The jurisdiction is that of the bank. They are there to make money. That's it. So they have no obligation to hear a dead entity. But the paperwork that precedes you, if you are straightening out your status, standing, and capacity, well, then you're damn straight they are honour and duty bound by the one greatness, the Creator, to honour your conscionable behaviour. Because if there's a civil infraction, that's all that is, and I shall be forgiven for it because I already have been. So if you can prove that otherwise, then you have a claim. But otherwise, we're in the clear. That's what's going on here.
Yeah, and form does matter. You know, like Andy was showing the scroll there. Here I'm showing a trifold shipping document. This is the ship into the ship.
Yes.
Okay.
Maritime
In the
fiction.
courts, I've got a case, a debt collection case, that we sent an initial rebuttal to them. They didn't want to send back to us. They sent to an attorney who filed a claim in court. So I drew up a cross libel, and the cross libel, I made 3 copies. One copy went to the original claimant, the plaintiff, the Portfolio Recovery Associates, not the attorney. I sent it directly back to them. One goes to the U.S. Department of Justice Attorney General William Barr, and those are both in letter form. In other words, there's no binding. It's just sheet on top of sheet on top of sheet, one-sided. The one I entered for court, though, was I actually glued the binding and put a binding on it, so it was presented to them in book form.
As you can
that
see,
form alone.
It's glued, as you can see. That's the way to do it, because it's bound. It's bound by us. That's what it's for, you know.
Yep, and I did a video on it, and I made a point to point that out. It is bound. It is binding.
You betcha.
And those are just subtle ways to let them know. It's just a different language to let them know it's binding. You didn't have to write it on the paper that it's binding. You can't see it. Sorry, that was a visual indication. That was a signal. Were you not paying attention? Were you not observing?
Be deceived. Exactly. Let the deceived be deceived. And but this is the depth of understanding that you and I have gotten to, that we need to get many more to, because we're too few in numbers at the moment. We need to have more of us shoulder to shoulder, you know, standing strong against this wave of evilness that's sweeping across the land. It's like a tsunami of words.
Yeah, it is. And that's why we're all going around like this.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know where we're going. And that's why I stress it's important to find out the origins of the words. The origins of the words will help you act better. Actions speak louder than words, no matter what you want to think. actions truly do speak louder than words. And if you want to start acting right, you really do need to get down to the roots of the words and find out why they're causing you to misbehave the way you do.
And the maximum,
because it truly is your own fault, folks.
It's substance over form. Put your substance over your thinking. Your substance is your actions. Allow your substance to speak volume. And that's so you have it covered under the creator of our God, and we have it covered at any court playing jurisdiction or any tennis match, as I like to call it. That's what a court is when you look at the etymological root. It's a place of game. So you better be ready to have a good match with these word masters, because that's what they are. They call themselves law masters, but they're just good with words. And if you can go in there, hold your own, don't worry about their case, watertight, have your suit tailored specifically for you, it only fits you, nobody else, and you go and present your suit from your watertight case, it shall always float on the sea of commerce. They won't be able to sink your ship, you know, and that's what all this is about, really, word for word. In any given case, it doesn't matter whether it's a crime or a civil infraction, it's always their word against yours. That's all this is here. Words are swords. You put yes at the front, you've got a sword. You move it back, you've got words. So if we keep our words sharp, we keep them sweet, we keep them simple, so they can't be assumed or presumed upon. They can't be taken out of narrative or out of the form that you have given them. And that's how you raise your power, and without giving it to them to bounce back off of us. It's just words, your word against theirs.
Yeah, and that form is very important. Again, like I said, when they, particularly here in the English language, we've got prefixes and suffixes that they add to the words, and that condition placed upon the word changes the term.
Mm-hmm.
This is why they call it terms and conditions. Yeah. The truth has been changed.
The construction of a contract is all there in the prefix. It is a con not trusted, because they are asking you to strike the paper with your sword. They are putting a allegation against you through mistrust. It's what we would call a tort.
And remember, contract is contract. Track relates to time span. Remember, we spoke earlier, without season of time.
Without season of time.
It's right. Not a matter of time. It's not a matter of contract. It's a matter of principalities. And if they're saying contract, then they're forgetting the principalities.
Mm-hmm.
You have to put the principalities in it.
Mm-hmm. And that's what legal is, their own principalities. And that's why all of their debt-based fiat currency is statute barred after 6 years. Because that's that they like their numerical, symbolic language, and that's what all of that legislative codified ruling is. And once you know that you're not a person,
yeah, and
you don't work.
And that's why and that's why it's 6 years for their claim to get it back from you, while bankruptcy is 6 or 9.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that and it has no intrinsic value anyway. We are all acting in a bankrupt capacity. It is all insolvent and has been since 1931, 1933 across the pond. It's all been insolvent. It's all been in liquidation because it has no intrinsic value. So if it's insolvent, how can they then stick it to you, this adhesive contract? Because that's what they're doing to us in an insolvent manner.
Right.
So when the foundation is wrong,
that's why
all
they need
is
latches.
wrong.
Contracts. That's why they need contracts. With. It has to be with. They can't. It's like a virus.
Yeah.
A virus can't live without a.
And these parasites are using us as hosts for their world of legal bullshit. How's that in layman's terms? Please forgive my French, but it does wind me up somewhat.
Yes.
Can you see if there's any questions or anything on there? I'm slightly feeling the pressure I have.
Well, Wayne Will just brought in a quote medical term in regards to when a woman is giving birth, she contracts.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they call them contractions.
Contractions, exactly, because you are coming down the shipping canal as chattel. They are birthing you, they are breaking the waters. But for the first 7 years, you are a master because your mother crowns you. You are a master of all things up until the age of 7, where it's taken from under your feet through subjugation and subrogation of your inherent rightful trust obligations.
Well, and then to expand on that, Russell's got one up here. He says, have you guys got a hold of your live born record? Now, when it comes to the live born record, what we're talking about there is the book of life.
Mm-hmm.
And the book of life is the book that the doctor signs at the hospital. Now, most commonly, these are huge, thick books. And what they do is they've got a cover, they flip over to the first page, and then they start registering. There's 3 names on each certificate. Mother's maiden name, father's maiden name, and then baby boy little. That's all that's there.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a second one and then a third one. There's 3 to page, each page. That's all the doctor sees. As time goes on and they go through this book, none of them ever reads the title of the book. Most of them don't know that it's called the Book of Life, because all they do is they're just told they go register that name
Mm-hmm.
in that book. Mother's maiden name, father's name, and then baby boy little. That's all it takes for them to create a birth certificate.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't even have to have the father's name.
No.
If they don't have the father's name, then it's obviously a bastard child. And most of them don't have a father's name.
And that's me. Mine doesn't have a father's name.
When we're trying to correct our records, we get here in America, we get the certificate of live birth authenticated both at the state level and the federal level. When it comes back from the federal level on that, it says right on it, under full faith and credit. Because we have no way to pay. These people that are asking you to pay in court, they're asking you to do something in fraud. You can't do that. It's stated, we have no way to pay. All we can do is discharge what has been charged. That's all we can do.
That's all we can do. You can't settle
a
debt with another debt.
Exchange of papers. That is just an exchange of papers.
Mm-hmm.
That is not an exchange of property.
Mm-hmm. There's no settlement.
They cannot make a claim on actual, real property. It can't be done.
Mm-hmm.
The land is not to be sold.
Mm-hmm.
So the only thing they're selling is the material that they make from the materials that they get from the land.
Mm-hmm.
Plastics, metals, things like that, that they then construct. They created that out of the materials and they can sell that. But the physical location, they can't sell. The time, they can't sell. They can't do none of that.
That's why
they can only sell things
and that's
like
why a government can't own land. They can only own property, because we are the land. We created government. The government created a person and slapped all its rule and regulation on it. And then we are schooled into thinking that we are a person. It's really that easy. We are the land. We can't ever own it. We only have temporary possessory rights over it on our temporary sojourn. If I am lying in the park under a tree for shade from the sun on a hot day, where I lay my head, you can't, because my head's already there. But when I've rested amply and move on, well, then you may rest your head there after me, and it'll be your possession of right for the time that you're there. And it's that easy. That's what the possessory right is. We can't own anything. We are to replenish the earth and use it for our benefit and put it back twofold for those generation coming after us. That's what it's for here. Sustainability for them, because they are our tomorrow.
Right. And so going back to that certificate of live birth in that book of life, we're supposed to get that certificate of live birth under full faith and credit from the state, from the federal government, and attach that baby, because that's where it was supposed to be attached to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a mother's maiden name, father's maiden name, and then baby boy little. It doesn't have the given Christian name.
Mm-hmm.
So now we attach it with an affidavit of the given Christian name.
Mm-hmm.
It perfects the title. You give it back to them through a certificate of receivership and trust, meaning anything they want to make a claim on in their financial system, they have a duty, an obligation now to balance the books correctly.
Mm-hmm. Because they have first-hand knowledge. They can't suffer you are taught at law through tacit acquiescence, which is non-disclosure. I'm just going to go and quickly grab my phone
And
charger.
you have
I'm at a
perfected
charge.
their title to it.
Mm-hmm.
And you have perfected their title to it. They're the ones claiming title. So when we talk about title and equity, title is the legal title. And now you've given them equitable title. And equitable title means to be fair. So when you give them that equity of the title, they are supposed to operate fairly. If at any time they don't, it gives up the title. It voids the title because they have both titles.
Mm-hmm.
You've perfected it and given it to them, placing the obligation of the liability on them under full faith and credit.
Mm-hmm. Of commercial terms.
Now, whether you got to do this at the hospital or the county register is up for debate because it depends on who's got the record. We have situations where some hospitals have closed and they built new hospitals, and so the records have been transferred. Some have been transferred to the new hospital. Some have been transferred to the county registrar. In effect, it's the county registrar who should, in effect, he's the one that actually certified that original live form situation, instance, event, occurrence, whatever you want to call it. He's the one that certified it, and his signature, and the state registrar is the signature that's on the certificate of live birth. So I would assume it would either be the county registrar, which would be your higher jurisdiction, than the state registrar. It seems backwards, but that is your highest jurisdiction because that is your common jurisdiction, as opposed to the state registrar or even the federal registrar. Those are exceedingly farther and farther away from you in venue. So your venue area is your highest jurisdiction. So I would assume it would be the county registrar where you were born.
Yes, that's where it would be your first entry would be kept. And here in England, they are called the superintendent. They have a hierarchical structure, much like the military, because we are either militant.
And that's also where your land patents are.
Mm-hmm.
That's also where your land patents are registered.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be wise to even get a copy and attach it to a land patent as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes, good thought. But these said offices and things have been closed down for some while now with this pandemic going on. So they're opening back up just now, and I was midst doing something, and I shall continue with my godly sojourn. And if it comes to fruition like I have faith it shall, I should be sharing my findings.
Yep, that's what we're supposed to do, and that's why I said that about the certificate of live birth and the live birth record. I'm not telling you to go to the hospital and attach it to whatever's at the hospital. They may give you problems about it, and then you want to come crying to me. I don't want that. I'm telling you there are things that you need to find out yet. You have to find out where you need to attach it to perfect that title.
Mm-hmm.
And they may not even want to tell you that.
Mm-hmm.
So it may just be a matter of attempting it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, asking people that these county registrars, most of them are stupid. They don't know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So even though that may be your highest jurisdiction on where you're supposed to enter it, you may have to go to the state registrar or the federal registrar to find your answer.
Yes, because their hierarchical system is much like the Masonic system, where each level the lie is different and no one knows underneath or above what they know. you know. How they deceive
Yeah,
everybody.
that's why they always say, no matter, and that's why they always say, no matter what position they're in, well, that'll have to go to our legal department. I know. I know. I want it to. I want to see how they rebut it.
Yes,
I want them to show their ignorance over yours.
Yes, please. Oh, they can proclaim their belligerent ignorance on paper for me.
I like that.
I
Yes,
can
please.
hold that mitigating situation when I litigate against them. Absolutely. Make everything in letter, because when you do it correctly through the doctrine of notices, anything that's returned back to you, then you have the mitigation, you have the paper trail, you have the proof, the evidence to cover yourself, you know. None of this phone call business or anything like that. Get it on paper. If a man says that he's above you and he
Yeah,
get it on paper.
yeah, your phone calls and your electronic things, they're telling you they've got this e-file system. I don't know if you got it over there, but over here we've got this e-file system. They're telling everybody you got an e-file now.
No.
That's a direct violation of my ability to provide my security interest for your commercial interest. That's a direct violation of me being able to provide my direct security interest by securing the instrument. You cannot generate an electronic instrument and not allow me to have access to it and put my signature on it before it gets entered into the system. That's identification theft. That's identity theft.
That's why we have secure mailing, and a man will come and take that physically with his hand and take it to the next addressee that you have addressed it to by hand. We pay for the security of it according to the UPU ruling. It's the highest law of the land. Go and have a look.
And just like I said, the highest jurisdiction is at your local county. When it comes to these stamps and documents and everything, the highest jurisdiction has to go to the signature. You cannot use an electronic signature just by entering a button on a keyboard. It's got to be wet ink.
The sign of life.
That will forever stand. You cannot change the form of a valid contract between one man and another being able to put a blood stamp on it.
And that's why you put your affidavit that way too. An unrebutted affidavit is a fact in commerce, and that's all a commercial realm. That's what that's for, you know. So if we are implementing these instruments correctly, you know, we shall get remedy, maintenance, and cure going forward. That's all that we ask, and nothing extra, nothing more. Equity. We want what's fair.
Yep, and that's an important part too. The maintenance, maintain. When they give you a bill of attainder, or they maintain this legal presumption, they are saying they are the main hold. Tain means hold. If you are going to maintain, that means you have to have and hold. It's a very important term in these trust situations when we're speaking of the remedy, maintenance, and cure. When you send out your administrative notices, the first one is for remedy, the second one is for maintenance, the third one is for cure.
And in turn of those, that is also admiralty and maritime jurisdiction differences. Maritime, you're looking at remedy, you know. Admiralty, you're looking at maintenance. And then we come to God's law. We're going for cure. Hello. You ask 3 times, you ask 3 wishes, and they shall be granted. And that's what that's all about. That's some more symbology and more secrets of their ruling and of how they play the game. But we're
the guy shining the lamp, and all of a sudden the genie pops out and grabs your 3 wishes, grants you 3 wishes. Those are your 3 wishes, folks.
You bet you. They have to be uttered. You have to say it. Otherwise, the assumption and presumption of the court is completely against you. You know, that's how it's ruled. That's what the ruling is. We are not taught this ruling.
Yep. All right. Let's see here. Oh, Kev Dempsey's got a nice one. He asked, what does droit mean?
Droit?
You want to give that one a shot?
I haven't got a clue what it means.
Droit. What does droit mean?
I don't know.
According to the Latin root, it means straight line.
There you go then.
Unidroit. Unidroit is what he's referring to. One line.
Mm-hmm.
One straight line.
One path. Don't be diverted.
That's the international law.
Excellent. Excellent.
That's the basic operation. Let me pull it up. I can't remember exactly what it's always called, but it's the international contract situation. It says United Nations Commission on International Trade Law. And what I want people to recognize here is United Nations is the entity. And then it says commission.
Mm-hmm. Separate entity.
Well, it's also a commercial term for getting paid
Mm-hmm.
a percentage.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to partake.
Commissioner, a meddler. It's the same. A commission is an intermeddler. They poke the nose into your business, expecting gain at the end.
So again, when we're speaking about droit, we're speaking about commercial law, and that one line is their commission. They want their commission.
Mm-hmm.
They want their taxes. They're going to enforce their taxes and get their commission either way. So we have to take the property out of their commercial realm and place it in what Andy was talking about earlier, a allodial title.
Mm-hmm. And that's the imposition of it. That's what they impose, that law or that rule. And when we look at the etymology of impose in its most basic form, it's to trespass. And it's against the law to trespass. And that's the real law there. So they can't enforce an act or a statute or a legislative rule and break the law by doing so. And this is what's going on here. Yep. And the minute that we point that out, that is a fact, it's a matter of fact, and you put that in an affidavit of truth, which then can't be rebutted, so it becomes fact in commerce. So then that's when you start going for your damages. And if they've suffered you a tort at law, you put it right. You could then invoke the equitable jurisdiction because you have been suffered a tort that way. You know, if the common law at law can't bring remedy, you bring in the big guns, and that's what this is in. Equitable, you know, principalities, shall we say, or the maxims of law therein.
And a lot of people get scared of the Admiralty Court, but I want to explain to something in regards to, again, two more terms. Responsibility, we spoke about this earlier, your ability to respond. And then you have liability. Responsibility is in maritime. Liability will always remain in Admiralty, always. It's the only way you can enforce liability is in Admiralty. You can only enforce responsibility of enforcement or of performance in maritime. When we get to Admiralty, we're not talking about commercial performance. We're talking about criminal torts, where you can get put behind bars for your commercial actions. And that's where we need to be comfortable standing in, is at Admiralty Court, letting them know that I am invoking the third court, the cure, right here and now. I am presenting the remedy. I do have and hold, and this is the cure, and you will do it, period.
And it all comes
otherwise to make me do anything else is to commit fraud in your system with you. You can't do that.
Exactly.
Make me sign. Make me sign. They need that signature. And yet, like I said, with these electronics, they're going forward without it anyway, and they're doing it to dupe you because they know they need that signature. So they got to try to convince you that you have to e-file. No, I don't. Show me your authority says I have to file my lawful documents, handwritten in wet ink, professing as an asseveration of truth.
Well,
your language is all predicated on computer machine language that's coded that then converts it and encrypts it. I'm not capable of reading that. I'm not capable of reading your barcodes. It has to be in concise English.
It's not in there, Keith. I've just
Yeah,
checked now.
I don't see
It
any of
says
it in
nothing
the
in there
document.
about email. It says nothing of the sort.
Nope, exactly. So think about this, folks. You really have to realize that the original source is where you get your word. If you're going to get your words from their legalese system instead of the Bible, then you're going to end up, you're already involved in their fraud, and you're just going to get involved in that fraud even deeper. If you don't realize how it's harming yourself, please recognize how it's harming your future generations. If you
Acquiescent.
have no care for yourself, I feel bad for you. If you have less care for your next generation, I feel even worse, because that's the true legacy of our creation, is that we're supposed to extend that life beyond ourselves. We're not supposed to be so going about in life so selfishly and carelessly that we care nothing about anything because we know we're just going to die someday. We have to realize that there's something more than just ourselves. We are not the one. We are just one of a oneness.
Mm-hmm. And we have to
We have no concern for that.
spend this God-given blessed day making good for the next, because it might be our last.
I can no longer seeing the hands that are supposed to be doing good works for him voluntarily signing any document without first looking at it and questioning every word, because I'm not mad that they lied to me. I'm mad because now I have to go through all this fucking work to question every word they put out because I can no longer believe it.
Mm-hmm.
If they'd have been honorable from the beginning, as that contract says, I wouldn't be dealing with this today.
Mm-hmm.
But because they have dishonored it so greatly and have lied so many times, I'm not mad because they lied. I'm mad because they won't step up and fix it, because I can no longer believe any of it. Period. And every time I question it, I did a video the other day. I went out. I had to file these documents for my companion. We had to first go to the doctor, which was at the hospital. And of course, you know, as soon as you walk in, there's a nurse with a table and got all kinds of good information for you, but not the accurate information that states the law. It's just their policies. They don't have anything about the OSHA laws. They don't have anything about the HIPAA laws. They just have a letter from the governor and their hospital policy and how it's changed. I'm sorry, but it hasn't been legislated yet. So let's refer to the laws. So I asked this lady one question, and the first thing out of her mouth wasn't to answer my question, but to call for security. You have a problem with me questioning and taking offense and call security, presenting the idea that I'm a threat and that I'm acting violent or something because I asked you a simple question? Excuse me, ma'am, let me explain something to you. I'm not here for you. I'm not here for the HIPAA laws. I'm not here for the OSHA laws. And I don't give a flying grasshopper's ass who you want to call for security, because I'm not here for them either. I'm here for my companion. And in doing so, I'm only going to be here for a short while. And I have enough information. I know I could put that mask on and be just fine with it. So that's what I'm going to do, but I'm going to do it for her. I reached over to the table to grab a mask that they offer freely, and she jumped. She jumped because she was in so much fear that she thought I was violent because I asked her a question. I was violent in no way. I simply asked a question. And when she wanted to scream for security, I explained to her, ma'am, I'm going to put the mask on for her anyway, and reached to the table, and she jumped. The hell is wrong with people? Why are you giving me a hard time because you're so afraid? You shouldn't be in public if you're that afraid. God says, fear not. I am at your side at all times, everywhere, in all things.
I'll hold you in my right hand.
That just shows me you're not carrying God with you.
Mm-hmm.
How dare you?
They are pursuant of the evil riches.
And that's why she overrid her fears and stood behind that table that day and went to work.
Mm-hmm. Pursuant.
She needs a paycheck.
those are pursuant of riches shall reap all evils. And you know, that's exactly what's going to go on, because these individuals that are spending their lifetime in work in these institutions are going to get it first, because they're the first ones that are going to have to have the vaccination. They're the first ones going to need the RIFID chip and the COVID markings and take on the mark of the beast and have a barcode on your
And
phone
they're the first
so that
ones
you
that
can
people are
enact in
going to hang.
converse. You know, it's what's going on here. They're the first ones for the chopping block. Little do they know. What do they need to open their eyes? You know, you look out of the
Yep.
box that they've been put inside of.
Yep.
But so right, it's 11 o'clock coming up here, Keith PM. I don't wish to be rude or anything like that,
Yeah,
but
we've
I
been
have to
here
get
a
up
couple
at
hours.
I have to get up in a few hours and go and do my thing, and I have to have a certain amount of consciousness myself to be able to perform adequately and give just and fair exchange, and which I expect from my performance. So on that note,
Yeah.
and I have had my son, I've had my boss's mother watching me this evening, and I say mother loosely because it's a legalese word. I'll say mum. There's another lesson for mother, father, male, female. All these words, they're not English. They're passed off as English, but they're all legalese languaged words. We are masculine and feminine beings of Mother Earth. That's it. We are mankind. We are kind
Yep.
of the same. We inherently have the same rights, the same thoughts, the same pattern of life, but we just carry slightly different parts of anatomy. That's all. All is atomic. That's what we are, and created in the light of perfectness. Go ye and multiply and be perfect in your works, which ye are judged upon. And that's what we are here doing this very day. God bless all of us that are watching. God bless us that are partaking in the consciousness of truth and walking that bloody lumpy, difficult, uphill path, because that's what it feels like some days. But Lord, is it rewarding when we get there.
Yes. And remember, folks, go barefoot and connect with Mama Earth.
I'll tell you what, because you've look, oh, can you see? I'm doing the same. But there you go. So I'm going to go and have the three S's, a shit shave and a chamois, as we say over here on this side of the pond. Prepare myself for, I've got to face the public realm tomorrow in my commercial capacity as a truck driver and deliver some dumpsters, as you call them over there, and make good of my time, you know, and my very short sojourn here. And we're trying to fit all these godly works in. And I've really enjoyed myself talking to you tonight, mate, and last time too. It's a beautiful thing that we have, and this knowledge and wisdom that we're sharing, and it's gratifying for me that all the turmoil of hours and months of dark solitude, singleness in my inner standing learning is now coming to fruition and rewarding me in more ways than I could ever have imagined, because I've met the most beautiful people. I have some absolute souls around me now that love me and things, and I could never have had that without this. So it's a beautiful time to be, you know, and to come from the dead and come back to life is the only way, you know. Stand up, be proud in that way that you've done it, not with pride though too much, it says in the book, but you have to have a certain expression of language for those to know what we can't keep saying the breastplate of God, but
Yeah, you have to have that esteem.
mm-hmm.
You have to have that knowledge of self, knowing that that's what supports you.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a matter of pride. It's a matter of knowing you've done what you've done and you've done the best you can. And it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. And it doesn't even matter what you think. Because in the end,
We've only got
he's
one
the
judge.
judge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
baby.
All right. With that, peace and love, brothers and sisters. Again, I reiterate what Andrew said there. I appreciate all the coming together. The last 4 years, you know, when I first started this on Facebook, I had 17 friends. And in 4 years, I've gone to the 5,000 limit, and it just keeps going and keeps going. People drop off, and I just keep adding them. And we're still gradually coming together in greater and greater force, and that's what it's going to take. I hope you're listening to us. I hope you're mirroring the proper image. while you're out there taking care of your affairs.
In the image of which
Showing
we are
love to our
created.
brothers and sisters. Yep.
Steadfast
So-
righteousness, be strong, have faith, keep the faith, hold it deep in your heart and don't waver. Don't be bewildered by any man's word of promise.
I created my own verse for the Bible. If anybody ever wants to include it in your Bible, my Bible has Hotep Secondly 1, verses 1 through 3, and it's very simple. He is my guide, verse 1. He protects me, verse 2. I shall not waver, is verse 3.
Exactly.
Pure and simple. You're
And
not going to stop it. I already know this. That's my foundation. You can't knock me off of it. You can kill me, but I'm still going to be on that foundation when I see him at the gate.
Spirit lives on, brother, through us all. Thank you for sharing your love with us. It's a beautiful thing. We'll catch up soon.
Yep.
Thank you for everybody watching in lifetime, and thank you if you're on catch up as well. We love you. We're doing it for you. This isn't for us, it's for you. What we get back is learning understandings from all of this too. That's the reason why we do it as well, you know. It's mainly we're giving ourselves freely, charitably, and all that we know in honor and righteousness. Thank you, brother. Thank you, everybody else.
All right.
Love everybody.
We'll see you again next time.
Thank
Pay
you.
attention, guys.
Yeah. Peace and love, brother. See you soon.